All right, welcome to Buffalo Plus's YouTube page, presented by BuffaloPlus.com. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell. We're talking about the NFL, the fact that fans could be in the stands coming up for this upcoming season. Now, the NFL saying, Dan, you're already mad. What are you mad about, Dan?
Just this everything. I mean, it wouldn't be unlike the NFL to mishandle something politically, socially. Now they're going to mishandle something health-wise. Just the fact of leaving this up to the teams. Like the NFL just being like, hey, you guys deal with it. Like, we've got enough to worry about, right? Like, this is crazy.
The league is Doug Marrone. They're just punting it away, right? That's what they're doing. They're punting it to the teams and saying, oh, what's it like in your city? Now, there is something that makes sense about that because you would have to go by the local restrictions. But at the same time, you know, this is not a movie theater here. We're talking about a game, a competitive game. And if you say in Dallas, Texas, the Cowboys can have a packed stadium with 100,000 fans, and yet in Buffalo, you can only have 25% of a crowd. This is just making these up. How fair is that to a team to say our home field has a quarter of the fans? And don't make the argument. People like, oh, look what happened to the Chargers when they were playing in LA. That's not the league mandating or a restrictions mandating how few. That's just nobody was a Chargers fan in LA, so they didn't show up to the games.
But this goes back to like 3 months ago when we were talking about it, you know, when sports were starting to trickle about coming back. And we said, hey, we think there's going to be a season, but we're really not sure about fans and how will fans impact sports, like each different sport. And we said like unanimously, football is a game changer because the crowd noise plays such a factor. I'm not saying it's to this extent and like this is, you know, an overreaction, but it's like another team gets another down. Like, okay, these teams get 4 downs, these teams get 3 downs. Like, depending on what state you're in, you get a 60-second play clock, you get a 25-second play clock. Like this, we've seen too, like when the NFL doesn't make these, when they broaden that range, footballs get deflated to certain extents. like, I'm just saying, like when they don't put their fist out and say, this is what the rule is across the board, people find ways to cheat, to break them, and there's a clear advantage to one side.
I mean, I definitely agree with you there, Dan. But Mike, what advantage do you think that the NFL has being a sport that's played in the fall, considering that the fact that the MLB looks like it'll come back, NBA, NHL, what benefit does that bring?
Well, I guess they'll see how the games are being played. But right now, the plan for those leagues is to not have fans. So we're not going to get that same thing. I'm thinking to myself, look at all the things teams are dealing with right now, right? And just to get the players in the building, just to keep them safe. I mean, we can't even have, you know, golf being played without an outbreak of cases. And that's not even close to a contact sport. So now we're going to do this for football. And then we're going to say, oh, yeah. And now you're going to be dealing with crowds and dealing with, imagine what it's going to be like if we've gone from all these sports being played with no fans to the NFL saying, okay, 25, 50%, whatever the number ends up being. I think it's so difficult to get your mind around what issues this could cause going forward. I'll put it to you this way. If you ask me today, I say they play the games. There's no fans in the stands for the NFL season. But again, it's the NFL. We don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, the NFL has stayed pat in the fact that they want to play, obviously the status of fans. But Dan, also, I feel like the NFL has to take into account like the fans getting into the stadium and what that scene will be like, right? Like that has to be a part of it.
You're talking about tailgating. You're talking about fans on top of one another. And that's the other thing they talk about too with like socially distancing. When you include alcohol, people tend to forget how to socially distance and you get closer. Like I'm not trying to sound like I'm an expert here on infectious diseases. Like when Rex Ryan used to say, well, I'm not a doctor. It's like, okay, good, Rex. I know you guys need to think that. But the only thing, if I can go a little conspiracy theory here, I think the NFL may be just trying to sprinkle this out there and get the vibe from the public. And when the public reaction or teams' reactions of like, are you kidding me? We're going to be at a disadvantage, or some fans get to come to games and some fans don't. I think the backlash that the NFL is trying to be more understanding and listening to what's going on in the country right now
Yeah.
Maybe next week we're having a totally different conversation right here on BuffaloPlus.com. We're like, yeah, by the way, the NFL came to their senses. There's no fans, by the way.
I will agree with that. It's kind of like a soft opening. Like, let's see how this goes. But Mike, also, like, how would a team, like for the Bills, how would they dictate or decide, you think, who, even if fans were allowed to go, who can go?
Yeah, I mean, that is a whole nother thing in terms of dealing with that. Somebody said to me, well, what if you just did it like every other seat? Well, I'm thinking, if somebody's got 4 season tickets, what, only 2 people in the family can go? And you got to spread it out. It is a whole different ball game. Obviously, if we're doing this social distancing, and then again, you don't want any fans sitting right up near the field. I guess Lambeau Leaps are out now, right? I don't think you'd want a player jumping into the stand. Jenna, that just adds to what I was talking about before, just the immense headaches for teams. Now, it's about the money too, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you're getting the fans there, they bring in money. But I at the moment, like, we are so far away from that feeling that you could have a big crowd or even a decent sized crowd. What did we just go? We're going to go up to what? 50 people right now meeting. And when we're in phase 4, that's a long way away from having a big crowd in a stadium.
Mike, the NFL Players Association doesn't even want players working out together right now. And the league saying, yeah, you know what? We could have 50, 60,000 people, but it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how everything pans out. Dan's fired up still. Make sure to check out. Yes, make sure to check out our Buffalo Plus podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. BuffaloPlus.com for your Bills coverage. And thank you for watching the Buffalo Plus YouTube page. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell.